taking the position that piracy of cultural works is not beneficial in its current form. To clarify these terms, piracy does not refer to banditry on the open seas, but rather the unauthorized use of another's production, invention, or conception, especially in infringement of copyright, as defined by the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Cultural works, for the sake of this discussion, refers to entertainment and associated media, especially film, music, and software. I will primarily be focusing on the online piracy of cultural works, limiting the scope of the discussion away from physical piracy, such as fake designer goods. To start, it is crucial to recognize the distinction put forth by Richard Stallman, founder of the Free Software Foundation. Stallman makes the important distinction between free as in speech and free as in beer, and voices the need to separate the two. In the media and in general discourse, these two categorizations are frequently lumped together. While I support free as in free speech, which allows for increased creativity and access to knowledge, an effort to legitimize a free as in beer doctrine for copyrighted works is wholly unacceptable. To start, let us examine the case of Girl Talk, an artist often mentioned in the debate over copyright infringement, or piracy, relating to the media. It is clear that Girl Talk adds a great deal of his own creativity and skill to produce his successful works. Nonetheless, it is undeniable that at least a small portion of this popularity is due to the acclaim, hard work, and talent of the artists he samples. A significant fact is that Girl Talk charges for his albums, a price which consumers decide, and for his performances, such as Yale's recent Spring Fling. His newest album, Feed the Animals, is available for free online. However, consumers are incentivized to pay for his album by the promise of enhanced features, quality, and even a physical CD for the increasing tiers of prices paid. The most surprising element of this album sale is that it is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial license. That is, anyone is free to distribute, remix, and use his work, but not for commercial gain. Isn't this exactly what Girl Talk is doing in the first place? It seems to be okay when Girl Talk distributes remixes and uses copyrighted works for commercial gain, but it is not okay when others do the same to his work. This stance seems hypocritical and undermines his credibility since he is applying a double standard. He is therefore not purely a free culture activist, as many claim. While Girl Talk should not pay millions or hundreds of millions of dollars in damages, as Tarani's example of Professor John suggests is a possibility, he should be properly attributing and financially contributing to the artist whose work he uses. Artists routinely pay the proper licensing fees to sample songs, such as T.I. and Rihanna's smash hit Live Your Life, which prominently sampled Ozone's Dragostea Dinte. No less should be expected of artists such as Girl Talk. An updated copyright regime should be formulated whereby all artists, including Girl Talk, are compensated for their work in amounts that are not prohibitively expensive. This would allow a negotiation of terms that allow fair use while discouraging piracy. Next, let us consider the landmark case of the Pirate Bay. This is an especially salient example as it encompasses illegal online sharing of copyrighted film, music, and software. Monique Wadstead, the prosecuting lawyer in the Swedish Pirate Bay trial, made an important point that was a major factor in determining the ruling in favor of the prosecution. Wadstead argued that content has costs associated with its production that, if not borne by consumers and those delivering the content, would result in an unsustainable business model in which the current production of cultural works would be impossible. This is one of the fundamental considerations in opposition of the piracy of cultural works. The co-founder of the group that created Pirate Bay, Pirate by Rand, named Magnus Eriksson, passionately argued for the opposing side and for the validity of the Pirate Bay's model. Many of these points blur the important distinction discussed earlier, however. Eriksson's first assertion is that file sharing is a neutral endeavor. But this file sharing is hardly neutral, as it has been estimated that the costs of piracy totaled $20 billion this very year. This huge financial blow to businesses hurts the bottom line of established companies, not only jeopardizing the savings of individuals invested in the business and the future employment of its workers, but also preventing the producers of cultural works from receiving just remuneration for their innovation. Eriksson continued by saying that the Pirate Bay has great opportunities to be at the center of a dynamic cultural life, where you don't need large resources to participate and get a global reach, where hidden gems from the cultural history can be revitalized. The ability to democratize the current system and let any and all individuals participate in the production and distribution of new content is indeed appealing. But, in practice, this ideal is not always carried out. In fact, there's been a clear connection drawn between online copyright infringement and decline in the sales of corresponding copyrighted material, such as the case of the music industry. Therefore, dynamic cultural life is actually damaged by piracy through sites such as the Pirate Bay. Eriksson claims, in connection to regulation of the exchange of online cultural works, that the option to monitor all communications, fight all new technologies, and spread a culture of fear in what should be a free and open communication communication network is not a desirable option. This defense is a bit extreme, as fighting against copyright infringement is neither monitoring all communications, fighting all new technologies, nor spreading a culture of fear. Copyright holders do not seek to monitor all communication, but only to stop gross copyright infringement, whether in the public or private sphere. Companies representing the creation of new cultural works embrace original technologies and frequently pay for the proper licenses to use them. Finally, such companies have no desire to spread a culture of fear, as this would alienate their customers. Erickson concludes by stating that anti-piracy efforts must be seen in the light of a counter-revolution against information sharing that goes all the way to the very infrastructure of the net. This is an extreme claim. Again, adapting to new technologies can be mutually advantageous to content producers and users. It is only when gross copyright infringement comes into play that anti-piracy efforts must target these infractions. This free as in beer use of the service has been defended by its owners as free as in free speech, a confusion of these two important categories which questions the validity of the pirate-based offense and ultimately led to a ruling against the website. As a result, the success of copyright holders in the Pirate Bay trial gives international precedent that rampant copyright infringement will not be tolerated by international law or the international community. On April 1st, 2009, slightly preceding the verdict of the Pirate Bay trial, the implementation of the new Swedish anti-piracy law has curbed internet traffic believed to be connected to the piracy of cultural works. In short, anti-piracy efforts can be effective in carrying out their objectives. Although there has been some backlash, the important point to consider is not whether such programs can work or not, but how they must be implemented to work effectively. The current relationship between cultural works and piracy of said works is not beneficial and is worsening, as is evidenced by Canada entering the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative's priority watch list relating to the piracy of cultural works for the first time this year. Reform of our current system is in order, and this change must be well thought out. Free as in free speech activists are justified in fighting against an overcorrection or over-restriction of rights in response to the clampdown on free as in free beer activities demanded by copyright holders. This is especially true if tools crucial to the sharing of and access to information, such as the Google search engine, are threatened by new legislation. The most important point of consideration, however, must and should be curbing free as in beer piracy of cultural works to reward creativity and incentivize innovation. Thank you.